G'day guys, welcome back. My name is Wildkard. Yes, it's no secret that I had a lot to talk about after the Waratahs versus Blues game on the weekend, and I went on to talk about a lot of people about why a team seems to, especially Australian teams, seems to underperform significantly after taking a penalty goal. And we saw that again on the weekend for the Waratahs, taking a penalty goal immediately, coming out of the changing room in the second half, and only to just get completely dominated for the remainder of the second half. And we've seen this not just at the Waratahs, we've seen this at the Wallabies level. We've even seen this in the Six Nations to some extent, probably more specifically the England side. And, I actually did quite a bit of research this week regarding to why this is occurring. It turns out they've actually done studies on this sort of stuff in the NFL. They have noticed statistically that a team is losing going into like the final quarter of the NFL game seems to be outperforming the team that is winning consistently. And they have done a lot of research into this, and quite interesting stuff. I won't talk about it in this video. I'll talk about it after, undoubtedly, the Waratahs game against the Brumbies, where probably going to disappoint me again. So I'll talk about it in that review. So if you're interested, tune into that on the weekend, okay? And I do need to pump the numbers a little bit on those videos because Super Rugby, man, nobody really cares too much, but this is maybe one way to hook you guys in to watch Super Rugby. By the way, and this, I am not sponsored by Super Rugby, but let me tell you something, okay? If you watch Super Rugby on YouTube for free because you're overseas, just be thankful that your free viewing is subsidized by me, okay? I have to pay to watch it in Australia, and so that you can watch it for free overseas on YouTube. So there it is, all right? You can thank me. You can thank me later. And so let's talk about what we're all here to see, some news come out of South Africa, all right? So Rassie Erasmus, obviously the greatest coach of Springbok history, probably one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach of all time. And there's a guy came out and made a pretty head-scratching comment about how he felt that the Springbok rugby is going right now. His name is Gio Aplong. I actually don't know this guy, so I'm just going to show you guys a picture. So this guy, former player, and I just think that he basically, his argument is that the Springboks is overly relying on Rassie Erasmus, and that there is a lack of essentially replacements that's coming up to challenge the position at the top. And he sees this as a problem by citing that in New Zealand, if the head coach isn't working for you, you can just bring in someone else because they've got so many different coaches that is, working in the system, and they can just bring in someone else. Whereas in South Africa, he doesn't see that as he see it more like a monopoly that is dominated by Rassie Erasmus, and no one else really can replace him. And if Rassie for some reason isn't keeping up with the international, I guess, international style of rugby, or the style that he is pursuing gets figured out and they need to change a different direction, he thinks that South Africa is lacking the ability to do so. And I think this is a really, really weird take in so many different levels, right? He's actually praising the fact that Kiwi can just change their head coach mid Rugby World Cup cycle as a whimp, as a good thing, because they have so many other coaches available. I just think that it is a little bit. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you South Africans probably have a lot to say, more to say about this than me. I think, like, if you look at every successful business, we can look at two biggest examples in the world, and that is Amazon and Microsoft. Bill Gates, when he left Microsoft, he handed the CEO position to the guy that's currently running the business, Satya Nadella. And essentially, Satya was an employee. And one of the idea Satya brought in is the push for the cloud, right? He's the one that brought in the Microsoft 360 subscription. Instead of selling you one copy of Excel for like $500, he just sells you the subscription and lock you in forever. He's the guy that brought it in. He actually made Microsoft more successful than Bill Gates initially with the Windows, right? And then if we look at another guy, Amazon, we've got Jeff Bezos. He actually stepped down. I don't know if you probably a lot of you guys probably don't know. He actually stepped down as the CEO, I think maybe 2 years ago. And the new guy came in. His name is Andy Jassy. And Andy Jassy is the guy that built Amazon Web Service, AWS. And AWS, like, believe it or not, is the most profitable, by far the most profitable part of the business in Amazon. More profitable than actually selling, $2, $2 fucking, crap, that's delivered to your home. Believe it or not. And both of these sort of like replacements from the former founders have saw more success than the founders themselves. And both of these new CEOs, Andy Jassy and Satya Nadella, has worked their way up from inside the organization. And if the Springboks, because Rassie Erasmus has been so successful, if the Springboks truly is worried about the succession plan, because, Rassie will retire one day, right? He's not immortal. He will, pass on into the mortal coil at some point. If they're truly worried about the succession plan, they need to have someone internally working in the Springboks as an option, not externally. Not someone at club rugby, not someone working at the Bulls, right? Not someone that's, that's overseas. They needed to have a succession plan in-house if they wanted to carry on with the dynasty. A lot of people criticize me for saying that I thought the New Zealand way, where they had the head coach passing it to the assistant coach, is the best way to go about it. That's how the New Zealanders were able to get 2 Rugby World Cups in a row, right? They had, Graham Henry passing to, what's his name? Steve Hansen, 2 World Cups. And then Steve Hansen passed to Foster, couldn't quite get it the third one. A lot of people felt like that was wrong, but I do think that was the way to go about it. You can't get 100% right, but that is the best way. That is the most consistent way. And you can see what happened when you stopped that in New Zealand rugby. You guys couldn't last 2 years with Razor, and you had to get rid of him, right? Because there's continuity. There's like a culture built up with the players, and all of that is disconnected when you completely just cut the head off and replace it with a new one. You really only do that, cutting the head off, is if there's a major problem where the business model no longer works. And then you have the parachute in a new CEO to completely bring the business into a different direction. That's the only time a business will really externally look for a CEO. And I think that should apply in rugby. And if South Africa truly is worried, I think that is the way. And I think that just having just by forcing newer coaches into the fold and potentially just replace Rassie in advance would just be completely stupid. I think it'll be completely stupid. It's like you preemptively, saying that there could be a problem that hasn't arrived yet, and you're gonna replace Rassie. That's really, I really don't agree. But let me know your thoughts if you're a South African after seeing these opinions. I do think that the one thing that is quite interesting is like, it's like, New Zealand rugby, even under like Ian Foster, they had someone that looked like they could take over the team should he resign, right, or gets kicked out, and that was Joe Schmidt. I thought Joe Schmidt was going to be the next guy potentially taking over the All Blacks, and then that's just even though you didn't go for it, it was looking like someone was internally could potentially taken over. The current setup at Rassie Erasmus, if you were to criticize the setup, is that Rassie really don't have anyone internally that can replace him. And that you could argue is the real problem with the succession plan. I can't see, with Nina left and, Felix, Alex Jones, no, actually wasn't that Felix Jones left, and now you got, Tony Ball in play. All of these guys are significant in terms of the contribution to the Springboks. but none of them could be considered like the next guy to replace Rassie, which I do think is a problem. I do think that could be a problem if you were to think that, there is no internal succession plan at the Springboks. But then again, it's still like Rassie is like what, 50 something, 53, I think. Still at least another 10 years. Like there's absolutely no problem for him to be the head coach of the Springboks, and also to just I do only just want one more thing. One of the arguments that this guy made is that they should have ended his, at least not given an extension to 2030, 31 or something. Should have given it only to 2027. Because I actually don't agree with this, because I do think that it's not a good idea to end a coach's, career, or not career, run at the Rugby World Cup. I do think that he should have it 1 or 2 years after the World Cup as the deadline, because you do end up in a situation where the coach is going to go all in for the World Cup and actually neglect on building the future. Whereas if you have him another 1 or 2 years after the World Cup, even if they don't win, if the coach has done the right thing, he might be setting up for the next World Cup. You can clearly see new guys being brought up, and he might have, he's actually got a longer term planning. Whereas if you actually just go, yep, World Cup, make or break, the coach, more likely to stick to the older guys and that had has no way of getting to the next World Cup than to actually, try to have a longer term strategy might not actually be the best idea. I do think that again, saying that it should have ended at the World Cup, just from a conceptually, from like a contractual, like a long-term planning is not good either. I know the All Blacks doing it. I know pretty much every team does this. I don't think it's a good idea. And if you look at Rassie, he got 2 World Cup wins because they gave him 6 years. They gave him the goal to win the World Cup of 2023, and then he won 2 World Cups, right? And that's the power of long-term planning. And I think it's being like overlooked a lot all around the world. Moving on, we've got Super Rugby coming up this weekend, and that is let's just have a look at what's happening this weekend. So last weekend, let's look review on what happened. Highlanders absolutely dominated by the Hurricanes on Friday. It's not really even at the same level, to be really honest with you. I think, Jamie Joseph is going to have a really hard look at what's going on in the team. Hurricanes is a great team. Ruben Love was back. Do want to apologize to people. I thought they were talking about Ruben Love going overseas, but it was actually Fa'a Anofo, the winger that's going overseas. So sorry for spreading some misinformation. Ruben Love is not going overseas, not at least until 2027. Brumbies of the Chiefs, this was another huge win for the Brumbies. James Slippers 203, and then this was again where Damian McKenzie missed another one right in front, the goal post, and he probably could have won the game, leading into a last-ditch effort to try to secure a win, and only for Corey Toole to get an intercept try on the other end. So again, Damian McKenzie not able to perform under pressure. Reds versus Virginia Drua, really well performed by the Reds. It was a really, really hot, exhausting game, and I think the Reds played the territory really, really well and scored 3 tries, just enough to win the game. Bonus point. And good enough, the Fijians wasn't able to crack the Reds defense at all. Now this game, Moana Pacifica versus Crusaders, I only watched half the game. And in fact, I had to leave to go to the Waratahs Blues game. And literally, when I left, I was like, oh my god, Moana Pacifica might put out another upset against the Crusaders. Because when I left, the score was like, I think it was like 14-14 or 14-12 or something. And Moana Pacifica was like maybe down by 2. And it looked like they just scored, right? So they would look like they're just about to take the lead. And then I got to the stadium, which was about 15-20 minutes later. I looked at the score. Crusaders was leading by 50. I was just like, my God, what happened? But it was like just crazy how quickly the Crusaders turned this one around. Finally, the Waratahs versus Blues. Yeah, what can I say? 17 points to 8 first half. And only for the Waratahs to completely crumble in the second half. I'd even told the people sitting around me, when we kicked the 3, I said, statistically, this doesn't work. This usually ends up with us conceding a lot more points than the 3 points we just scored, and sure enough, we scored a bunch, and none of the guys believed me. But hey, there you go. Yeah, so not very happy about that, and we'll talk about more about that on the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, Waratahs will be taking on the dynasty, the ACT Brumbies this weekend in Canberra. No, I will not be going because the petrol price is like getting close to like it's like 250 now. So yeah, it's getting quite crazy. And then there's apparently a shortage, and so yeah, I might not even get fuel at some point, right? But anyway, let's talk about this game. So the Waratahs will be heading to Canberra for this one. So here's the team. Tom Lambert coming number 1, Ethan Dubbins number 2, Daniel Botha number 3, the same unchanged front rowers, Matt Phillip number 4, Miles Amatosero number 5, Clem Hala Holo coming number 6, Jamie Adamson number 7, and P. Samu finish off at number 8. Jay Gordon coming at number 9, Jack Debrasini number 10, Max Jorgensen number 11, Lawson Crichton number 12, Joey Walton number 13. So Crichton and Joey was caught up off the bench on the weekend because Tristan Riley, he was initially named to be 13 and just got dropped out. So Crichton was caught up to number 12, and Joey Walton was initially named at 12 last weekend, and it got pushed to 13. So this is actually the same setup from last weekend after Riley was pulled out late. And then Andrew Callaway gets caught up to number 15 over Harry Porter, which I do think that is a little bit off a couple on the weekend. And Sid Harvey gets the number 15 jersey. Some talks of him wanting to play for the Sevens again for the gold medal, but come on, man, Sevens are just not the same. Sevens are not the same. I just like to remind you, mate, the gold medal is not even like gold anymore. It's literally like a piece of chocolate inside with a gold foil wrapped on the outside, right? Like it's literally not even gold, and apparently really bad quality. So don't waste your time. Stick to rugby. That's all I can say. In the backs, in the reserves, we've got Flower Fainga gets caught in number 16 ahead of Moananu. Jack Barrett gets caught in number 17, and that's ahead of, I think there's a concussion for who was it? The Rebels guy. Isaac Kalea. So I think he's got a head concussion. So Jack Barrett's caught in at 17. Seal Sifa Amon retains number 18. Angus Blythe, number 19. Charlie Gamble returns to number 20. Had a bit of injury. He's back at number 20. So really, really good to see. Angus Scott Young, number 21. Teddy Wilson, number 22. And Tristan Riley gets returned at number 23. I'm pretty sure Angus Scott Young he played his first game for the Waratahs on the weekend. So this is the 6-2 setup on the bench. Was it 6-2 as well on the weekend because Riley got injured? Maybe because Tillman was on the bench on the weekend, so maybe. But Angus Scott Young, I'm pretty sure he played for the Reds a while ago. Yeah, he played for the Reds for a while, and then went overseas, and now he's back, and he played his first game for the Waratahs on the weekend. He was off the bench, so this is his second game, and he is indeed a loose forward. So. Yeah, so he will be. This will be a 6-2 setup for the Waratahs, and we'll have to see if that's going to work out for for them against the Brumbies, because Tillman, I guess you don't really need another center. You don't really have another 10. You've got 2 10s on the field already, so you don't really need another 10. Hendren is injured, so you don't even have a additional fullback there. Yeah, it's not really much, really not much options here. Maybe the 6-2 is like the only thing they can do. They don't have much left. I mean, Harry Porter, you can put him on the bench, but like, what's he gonna bring that's you don't already have, right? He's not gonna bring anything new. So yeah, this is a interesting setup for the Waratahs. And then on the other end of the field, we've got the Brumbies. We've got James Slipper coming in. This will be his 100th cap for the Brumbies. 204 Super Rugby caps overall. So the Brumbies team is as follows. Got James Slipper coming number 1, Billy Pollard number 2, Darcy Breen number 3, Lockie Shaw number 4, Caden Neville number 5. Got Rob Valentini number 6, Rory Scott number 7, Charlie Kale number 8 has been outstanding. Ryan Lonergan, number 9. Declan Meredith, number 10. Corey Toole, number 11. David Philly Uai, number 12. Caden Pritchard, number 13. Has been called up from the bench. I thought it was on the bench. But anyway, oh no, his brother's on the bench for the Reds. That's right. Anyway, Ollie Sapsford, number 14. Andy Muirhead, number 15. Liam Bowron, coming number 16. Blake Shoop, number 17. Tavita Alatini, number 18. Toby McPherson, number 19. Luke Reimer, number 20. Kalen Thorne, number 21. Tane Edmund, number 22. Hassan Crichton come in at number 23 to finish off the Brumbies setup. So there was a bit of interview this week with the Joe Schmitty, and he did talk about potentially having more test caps for James Slipper. Like, he can definitely go. He's 36. He's not. He's like, if Dion Ferree can play open side flanker like 37, if Ma'anonu can play center at 42, probably is prime at 36. A lot of the big Mr. Universe, winners, they don't even get there till 40 plus. So when it comes to man and when it comes to strength, especially, and endurance, the age is not a factor. Age only shaves off your speed, and if you're a prop, it doesn't really matter. Your speed is not really a big concern anyway. So he definitely can go, and I think we should push his 151 test caps, I believe. We should definitely push him to beat Alan Wynne Jones at 150 something, 150, 53, 54. I think Alan Wynne Jones has got. So we definitely can get him to beat Alan Wynne Jones to becoming the most capped test player of all time potentially. I'm all for it. Joey Walton has signed to go to France at Montauban overseas. Now, I've been watching quite a bit of Top 14 on YouTube replays, and it's interesting. There's no commentary, and I have to listen to the referee speaking French. It's apparently scrum. It's melee, like melee, MELEE. Melee is apparently scrum. But obviously French don't pronounce melee as melee, like melee or something. But that's the word for scrum in French. And that's about the only thing I picked up in French that I can remember. And scrum calls are like, what's the scrum call? It's actually kind of weird. Have I written down somewhere? The crouch sounded like they're saying flexion. Sounded like flex. So English and French have a lot of crossovers. So yeah, the referee says flexion when he says crouch. But anyway, Joe Schmidt has made a phone call with Tom Hooper, basically indicated to him that if he was to be outstanding at his job, he still be available for Wallaby selection. Tom Lineup is going to be returning this weekend for the Reds against the who are they playing against? Against Hurricanes this weekend, I think. The Reds, and he's off the bench. Dave Rennie has announced three assistant coaches. I think 4 assistant coaches, I believe. 3 new. So we've got Neil Barnes from the Kobe Steelers for attack coach. We've got Mike Blair. Both of them will be attack coaches. Tana Umanga will be joining as well. So that's 3. Neil Barnes, Mike Blair, and Tana Umanga, and then retaining Jason Ryan as the forwards coach. So Jason Ryan this is the 3rd head coach he's worked under Fozzie, Razor, and now Dave Rennie. So he's done a good job for the scrum. So that's the call for the All Blacks there. Inoni Narawa has decided to stay with the New Zealand Rugby to 2029. That's a pretty big signing. A lot of the Leinster fans starting to wake up to the fact that Rieko Ioane is a little bit over the hill. I kind of told you guys so, that he hasn't really looked like the top form at least burned out for the All Blacks for quite some time now. And yeah, the Leinster fans apparently starting to waking up that he's not Geordie Barrett. Yep. Georgia Rugby has, had a number of their players being caught breaking the doping, a bit of a violation, and not what you think. It's not steroids. It's apparently recreational drugs. And then they try to obviously change the urine. So you're not allowed to be on any sort of drugs when you're like competing in a World Cup. So yeah, they had tempered their urine samples, and apparently they were doing recreational drugs. So 6 of the members got done for this. Pretty bad for Georgia Rugby. Jamie Joseph, Highlanders. Yeah, I've already talked about that before. I do think that they're probably playing too much of test style of rugby and not really focusing on the fundamentals. David McKenzie actually talked about some thoughts about, the All Blacks should be the team for the best available New Zealanders, regardless if they play in New Zealand or not. Ntamack, you're not standing up to do your bit as the next big thing, mate. That's the problem. Six Nations have announced their... Oh, sorry, not this one. So, Ferrari, the Italian tight head prop who's been outstanding for Italy at Six Nations, has suffered a spinal surgery. So pretty bad. Hopefully it's going to be okay. It's going to be out due to that. The Six Nations are named their 15 players for the championship, and not a single Englishman was named. But number of Italians players named, not a single English player has been named. Only person I agree is Rhys Carey for Wales, and everybody else is just not. I don't really care. So this is actually a little bit interesting. I want to hear what you think about this. So the Romain Ntamack has returned to play at his top 14 club at Toulouse, and he basically got booed out of the building by the fans, by the Bagler fans, right? Bagel fans, not Bagler, Bagel, Bordeaux Bagel. The Bagel fans booed him out of the stadium, and the coaches were not happy. Now that's not the thing that I'm having a problem with. Here's the thing that I'm really struggling to understand. He was out of action due to hamstring injury and kidney issues. He's 26 and he has kidney issues. What? Like, the only way you could get that is via certain drugs. There's no way you could just get kidney issues at 26. Something is going on, and I would not speculate, but let me know your thoughts. What could possibly cause kidney issues at 26 years of age for a professional athlete who probably don't even drink that much, right? As part of their diet, right? Anyway, moving on. Liam Williams has a bit of a knee injury, and as a result, he's retired from rugby. Yep. And finally, Alex Munn re-signs with Cardiff after he's re-signed with Cardiff, and how long he's re-signed for? 2-3 years or something. But anyway, Alex Munn re-signs with Cardiff. That's the final bit of news. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys this weekend for the Waratahs Brumbies review and my thoughts, my research result on what I think some of the issues with Waratahs currently lies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys this weekend. Have a good one. Cheers.